cheating scandals in Riftbound this weekend. But first, a look back at one where someone got banned and their prize money taken away from them. Shout out to Zinc on my Discord for putting out a previous cheating scandal that happened. I'll link to Happy Raptor TCG's video on this in the description below, but essentially a Teemo player was one of the top 8, top 12, dominated by Kaiser, the metagame menace. And it turned out Teemo, a character kind of hated in League of Legends for a sneaky little weasel, the player playing him was cheating by shuffle manipulating the opponent's deck to put their best cards to the bottom, which is even worse in Riftbound because there's no further shuffling. The game is designed, to not shuffle your deck. That player had all of their winnings stripped from them when they were proved to be cheating and with intent. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Savjz, who played live on stream at a $10,000 Riftbound tournament, an SCG event over the weekend, and was found to be misplaying to the point of gaining an advantage multiple times, and 3 separate instances of the same mistake, as they put it, on stream, on video. So people are chomping at the bit and memeing about this. So I wanted to cover it and add some input that might be constructive in some ways. All that and more in today's video. If you're looking to pick up Riftbound sealed product in North America, you can go to coolstuffinc.com. Use code Kenobi at checkout to get 5% off your order and help support the show. I'll be real right now, it's mainly singles. The sealed restock is meant to be coming in December according to distributors, but I can't comment on that too much. Savjz is an XMPL member in the Magic community, a big Hearthstone gamer, primarily a digital card gamer, but he is no stranger to controversy. To put some of the shit that people say to bed in the comment sections of these videos and on Reddit, people saying that he's banned from Hearthstone, that's not true. He was at one point blacklisted because his wife formerly worked for Blizzard and criticized their shit practices, and then a community manager thought it wise not to invite him to an event. That's a whole different controversy, but I'm gonna front load with how people misrepresent him a lot. That's not to say he wasn't cheating here, but I do think you have to pause, take a breath, and not believe every fucking thing you read on Reddit. However, a year ago, he was accused of, and pretty convincingly so, cheating or at least misplaying in a way that gave him a benefit at a Lorcana event. Shout out to Quest for Lorcana for their video with the VOD in it and some commentary to help me understand the situation. To keep you all up to speed, essentially Savjz plays How Far I'll Go once. He taps a character to play it, so it's free. He looks at the top 2 cards of his library, puts one into his hand and the other into play, face down, and exerted as a land, using Magic terminology here. He then casts the spell again and takes 2 cards, actually touches them to his hand, which I think is fucking wild, because then you could like ink or face down one of the other cards in your hands. We're already in problem territory there, but the Lorcana community doesn't seem to talk about that, and then proceeds to not ink anything. He has 1 exerted land, 9 unexerted, untapped lands in play. He's now drawn 2 cards off of a spell that says distinctly not to just draw 2 cards, one of them must become a land, and then reportedly goes on to cast 10 mana's worth of spells with 9 mana, acting like the exerted mana was usable this turn. Exerted being tapped. I'm jumping back and forth between terminology here. I'm sorry, it's multiple card games. Anyway, there's an apology video from Savjz that is now privated. I can't watch it. Bruh. And he's not played Lorcana since. Maybe he's upset with the community, maybe he actually got caught cheating. I'm not gonna cast judgment on it because I've just not looked into it enough, but it doesn't look good. There's a live top-down streamed video of him doing it, and it does look bad. A common thread here is not tapping your resources to pay for your spells. At least in this circumstance, he has creatures that tap to do it for him, so his lands can remain untapped. But you came here for some juicy Riftbound, didn't you? Right, let's talk about the Riftbound examples. There are 3 examples from the 11-hour VOD. I do want to shout out to Turn 'em Sideways, who both uploaded the VOD, although it cuts short and misses some of the stuff that I want to see, but also just running events at SCGCon Vegas, which I think is fantastic. I love seeing games like Riftbound come out of the gate swinging in terms of competitive play, even if we have cheating controversies alongside it. Who am I kidding? This stuff's fucking fascinating, right? An important note here is that this table that we're watching is not the top 8 table. This is actually just the feature match table. So for example, the round against Kenneth T is round 1 of 9. In round 1 of 9, Savjz is playing against Kenneth T. He casts Showstopper by tapping a mana and playing the spell, but does not recycle the resource needed to play Showstopper. There's some explanations here for how Riftbound works that's needed for this to make sense. This is Showstopper. This is the topical card for this video, often being called Free Stopper by people by people in the Riftbound community now because of this meme that has grown out of Savjz's play. The top corner is the mana cost. So you pay this to play the spell. You tap a resource. You exert a rune to use Riftbound technology. This little block underneath, this little coloured symbol, dictates to you how many of those resources that you have in play right now you have to put to the bottom of your resource deck. So in the case of Showstopper, you'll be tapping one rune and then placing that rune, presumably, but any yellow or orange rune you have in play, on the bottom of your library to play it. Savjz does not do this. As you can see, there's just one rune tapped and not recycled to the bottom of that white pile of sleeves to the left, which should be his rune pile. The reason this is so strong as a mistake that leads to an advantage, we'll get more into whether it's a cheat in a second, but this means that you aren't putting yourself behind. One of the core mechanics of Riftbound, in terms of playing powerful spells like this card, a $60 chase rare that powers up set quite well, is that you get to use those cards, but it will reduce your overall resource count. And thus you aren't ramping or land dropping your way to higher cost cards. There's a tempo setback in order to play the most powerful cards in, I think I said Runeterra a minute ago, in Riftbound. I can't help but call it Runeterra, I'm sorry. They're one and the same in my mind. So he's not recycling his runes correctly and paying the costs for his spell. In this case, making the spell only half its cost. You must exert a rune, but you aren't recycling one. What if the spell then became completely fucking free? In the game against Jacob T in the round 9 of the event, he plays Set and recycles the necessary rune to pay Set. Here is a picture of Set. As you can see, it has a 5 cost and then a recycle cost. So he's paid the 5 and then recycled one of those tapped runes. And it's in play. There is actually a window here, in theory, because he has an ETB effect, a trigger, that opens up a reaction window in which Jacob could react, but Savjz doesn't allow him to. This is shortcutting, and this is perhaps more of a debatable conversation, because there isn't really a 4 damage spell, or 5 damage spell, whatever Set's power is, to kill him in the format right now, and also with the mana open from Jacob right now, he couldn't double spell to kill it either. So it's shortcutting, but there's also an argument that this shortcut also creates sort of like time pressure where the opponent doesn't realise that they're getting a little bit scummed. And I am using the word scummed here. Even if this wasn't intentional, even if this was a mistake, Jacob is the one getting scummed here. The opponents are the ones getting scummed here. They're getting knocked out or reduced down in their standings by someone not playing by the rules, whether intentional or not. More on that in a second. So, his Set, his Showstopper. But wait, let's look at those runes again. He started the game with 6 mana in play. He's played a 5-drop and a 1-drop spell. One of these runes is untapped. Also, 2 of these spells that he's casting have recycle costs, so 2 of his runes should be on the bottom of his library, but they're not. He started on 6, he's now on 5, and one of them is untapped. Luckily, Jacob simply has a spell to return his creature from the battlefield that it's on to his hand in order to stop getting beaten the shit out of by Big Daddy Set. But that 1 orange rune is super important to the Set deck that Savjz is playing. Unyielding Spirit is a 1 mana and a recycle, if you remember. A spell that counters, or should I say prevents, all spell and ability damage this turn to a creature. Or to all creatures, should I say, actually. It's not to one. Huh, that's better than I thought it was. This is important because Jacob has 3 mana up, which could be some number of burn spells in the format. I didn't find Jacob's exact list, but it's very likely he's playing the 3 damage, 1 mana, 1 recycle, deal 3 damage to a unit at a base called Hextech Ray, which currently he can tap 1 blue 4 and recycle one of the tapped or exerted resources in play, and thus will be able to do extra damage to his opponent's creature. Actually, scratch what I said earlier. If he had like double Hextech Ray in hand, he could play both of them here. The point is that extra mana there undoes all of the burn-based removal that could make this attack, this play that Savjz is making, go pear-shaped. Again, I'm not saying there's actually intent here. One of the points that Savjz makes in his apology, which we'll come to in a moment, I say apology, his explanation, is that this was all accidental. He had no idea he was doing it. But the point is, he's doing it, he's making a mistake, and he's gaining a benefit from it. They are 2 parts of the holy trifecta of cheating. Before we get onto that, though, let's look at the 3rd example. In the top 8 game against Carmen Complowens, we see the same thing happen again. Facebreaker to his Set, moving it over while he's currently on 4 runes, and after the resolution of the spell and the killing of the creature that he moves into the battle zone of, the orange rune is still tapped and not on the bottom of his library, nor are any of the other runes. Instead of going from 4 down to 3 and putting him back next turn, so for example, he may not be able to play a protection spell on a 5-drop, he is now going to next turn be able to play a protection spell on a 5-drop. Although if you're just playing your spells for free or not paying half their costs, I guess you can do that anyway with less runes. Again, could be an accident, but 3 times across a day, 1 in round 1 and 1 in the top 8, so beginning and end, What was he doing in the off-camera rounds? He wasn't on camera for the entire event. He just got feature matched 3 times. One at the beginning because he's a known player, and later on because he was doing so well. And you know what? I think I'd do pretty good at Riftbound Tournament 2 if my spells were suddenly free. Now, let's be real. I'm not here to make an innocent man's day worse. He may have generally just made some mistakes, which is absolutely a thing that can happen. I have made mistakes during games of Commander on camera, on channels. I made 2 land drops in a single turn in one of my videos at the very end of the game on this channel. Oh, and there was people telling me I was a cheater right there and then, which is really funny because I'm uploading to my own fucking channel. The point of me bringing this up is, like, I know what it's like for people to accuse you of cheating, perhaps not in a high-level event, but at least when you're showing up on camera. We recently had a controversy, a minor one, a very minor one, where people were pointing out that they thought people on gameplay shows were looking at the hand of the person to the left when they want, like, shuffle up and play or whatever. I don't think people are cheating on casual shows, but people will always find a way to accuse someone of cheating. It's good drama. On gameplay shows like Commander stuff, though, you often take half an hour or longer breaks. In the case of the extra land drop on my one, back on the Warhammer gameplay video back in the day, we took a long break to redo lights, reset a battery on a mic, and redo a little bit of powdering because we were getting sweaty in a hot room. Yeah, we had a big break. I came back and made an extra land drop. Why I'm bringing up this anecdote is not only to give an idea that I know what it's like to be in the public eye and be pointed at like that, but also, like, the focus. When you are doing a gameplay show, you're bantering, you're also involved with the production of it, you will make mistakes. Mistakes happen. My latest Commander gameplay, we fucked up several rules. We didn't have a judge in the room. I was both judge, presenter, and player, and had to care about the production of the show as well. When you're sat on a stream table, there is pressure. There is absolute mental weight to playing on stream and also just playing generally. I get it. But your focus should be so much on the game that if you are an established, well-known content creator and tournament magic or card game player, you probably shouldn't fuck up the simple act of paying the resource cost in the top left-hand corner of your cards. It's not unforgivable, but it is a little bit odd. What I'm saying is, it's not necessarily that it's so odd it must be a cheat, but I'm saying you kind of have to step up your game a little bit. One mistake, sure, in round 1, and then you're getting used to it. There's an important point here. Riftbound is really fucking new. So one of the big contentious points is, like, how is there not a judge at the table? How are the opponents, other seasoned card game veterans or card game designers or whatever, not noticing this? What about the commentators watching over the videos? Why aren't they noticing? Well, that's a very nuanced conversation to have, to be honest. It's not up to your opponent to ensure that you aren't fucking cheating, although I guess it does go on to your opponents to keep an eye out. I'll talk about that very much towards the end of the video. You kind of have to be proactive to stop people from taking advantage of your goodwill. There's supposedly no judge at the table, which I think is fucking crazy. I guess at a top 8 table, it makes sense to always have a judge there, but when your stream table is just showing random rounds from throughout the day that people get featured, the feature match, if you will, then having a judge there does change the dynamic of the table in a way. It makes it like the rules enforcement there is a lot more rigid, but ultimately that shouldn't be a consideration or problem because rules should be rigidly enforced. And same for commentators, they're trying to talk about, like, what's in hands, how the matchup works, color commentary versus, like, knowledge matter expert, and trying to be entertaining and present. Again, it's not their job to maintain the board state. Although through the powers combined of player, opponent, commentators, and judges, this should create a situation where this doesn't happen 3 times on the same stream. It is arguably pretty fucking amateurish, if I'm honest. I'm going to chalk it up to brand new card game, brand new rules, brand new environments. Hell, I don't know who Turn 'em Sideways are, but they might be new too. I think it's okay to offer a little bit of forgiveness, a little bit of laxity to a new situation where things are brand new like this. So let's come to, is it or is it not a cheat? I'm probably not going to come on a concrete answer here, but I think it's still worth discussing. A cheat is 3 things. You're doing something outside of the rules of the game, you're gaining an advantage from it, and you are doing it intentionally. Intent and intentionality are really, really important, and that third point is really hard to argue. First to a clear as fucking day, though. He's doing it wrong, he's getting an advantage. And that's where it, like, manifests from just being like, they got an advantage through playing wrong, to they got an advantage through playing wrong on purpose, and thus cheating. And cheating itself, due to the intentionality of it, carries a much bigger weight, both socially and what we sort of like view a person as, but also within the hard-coded rules of a game. Often, if you cheat unintentionally, or like it's believed to be unintentional because the intent cannot be proven, or like pulled out of the situation by those doing the investigation, I guess. Judges I'm talking about, not us. You don't do investigations. You're just a fucking armchair watcher at this point. So am I. But like hardcore banning someone outright, even though like there was no intent for them to cheat there, is not the way we should be. So I think the intention point is very important. That said, he beat Carmen in the top 8, so I'm assuming he took a cash prize from this. And that leads me to my final point of, it doesn't matter how much of a mistake or accident it actually was, you've taken money from other people by playing the game wrong. If anything, your prizes should be cascaded down to the following players in the standings, and you should be removed from said standings because you made the same fucking mistake 3 times on camera, let alone off camera. In his apology, he even mentions there may be 5 instances in where it happened. He's actually referring to one that I saw some Redditors posting about, where if you just watch for 2 more minutes, he corrects it. He fixes the problem, but it's mainly because maybe he was spotted by his opponent. That is absolutely added conjecture from me, but it's true, right? If you're doing this over and over, and then you occasionally fix it when you're investigated by your opponent, when they lean over and ask how many runes are you on, it doesn't look good. He's got quite a lengthy explanation on Twitter. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's 2 things I want to read. One of the earlier paragraphs that I think is quite telling, and one of the later ones that leads to a kind of philosophical thought in my mind about how I deal with these sort of cheating videos. He says he only did this 5 times during the whole event, which might be quite a conservative number, I guess. We only saw 3 on camera. Actually, well, it's 4 on camera, 1 with a corrected one, like I mentioned. He mentions one of them he corrected quite quickly. If that's the one I saw, it wasn't quick enough, if I'm honest. And then he says 2 of the other times did absolutely no bearing on the games. One of them, I knew the time was running low, and I knew there was no combination of cards he could have with 3 energy open that would save him, so I was rushing it, as a tie wouldn't make the top cut. I won that turn, and the mana wasn't relevant. The match did go to time, which barely ended up before the tie. The other one was also a completely senseless spot. I did pay the energy, and I still had energy up to play the game-winning Unyielding Spirit. It was against Carmen towards the end of Game 3. I couldn't find the full VOD right now, etc, etc, etc. Basically, I really strongly dislike this thing where you take complete agency away from your opponent and tell them they have nothing they can do. I understand that if they are time wasting or padding out time where you might go to a draw, for example, that might be a frustration, but ultimately just tapping or recycling your runes correctly isn't going to lengthen that, and it is the base level thing you should do when playing your cards. It almost feels like this statement is a bit of, I deserved the win, they had no chance, they had no outs, still got all these, which isn't too far removed. I'm getting to a bit of psychoanalysis here, but doesn't feel too far removed from I deserve the win and thus I don't need to play by the rules that we see. I did a big video talking about a cheater's admission on Reddit about that stuff. It just kind of stinks. Like, it just doesn't matter whether it had an effect on the end game state. You don't know that during the moment where you chose, perhaps. And again, this also reeks of like, he kind of knew. He was shortcutting on purpose because he knew. Yeah, the actual apology makes me more convinced this is a problem. Again, I'm not gonna completely condemn him because I wasn't there and haven't watched enough of the footage, but this is pretty fucking damning. And then on that note of whether I can condemn him from my like little office in England, his final paragraph is this. I know there are people who want to tear me down and think the worst of me, but the ones who actually know me are aware there's no way I would do anything like this intentionally. I woke up to a lot of DMs asking if I'm okay, and I'm not. Thanks to everyone who reached out. I haven't been able to reply to everyone yet. And that's really an important point. Like, I'm not trying to make this dude not feel okay, especially if it was genuinely an accident. But the people below you in the standings who lost out on money because you unintentionally improved how your deck works, that's not okay either. And you need to take steps to rectify that. I'll leave it up to judge staff to determine like what happened and what the fixes should be going forward. But I do think it's worth talking about this stuff. And like I said, I want to talk about a little bit about how you can you can stop this happening. First of all, on an organizational level, there should be judges available that will stop games and recorrect them if someone calls them over to try and fix them. So you notice someone hasn't reset their rune or whatever, you call a judge and they fix it. Judges are your friends. There is this pervasive thing within the most casual parts of the card game community that judges are out to get you. They are not. They're out there to facilitate the competitive integrity of a card game, and you should utilize them as such. Beyond that, there are ways you can stop this shit from happening. The shuffle cheat that got the guy DQ'd and all his fucking money taken taken away from the very beginning of the video. He was doing it during the cut, so this doesn't quite work there, but the obvious thing in Magic, when someone's shuffle cheating you, or maybe shuffle cheating themselves, is you need to, when offer the cut, take the cut, pick up the deck and mash it twice and hand it back. Problem when people are very, very good at shuffle cheating and will shuffle cheat your deck worse when you offer the cut. I get it, but still, taking the cut and using the cut to mash shuffle your opponent's deck is correct. A user on my Discord recently said that they never used to do this against pro players because they trusted them, but the reality is with your Yu-Gi-Oh! Watanabes and similar out there, or even Savjz if we look at it this way, you can't just trust someone to know what they're doing because they're a content creator, celebrity, or pro player. Cheaters exist at every level and echelon of all card games. And when it comes to things like this, not tapping your mana correctly, keeping mana up, I did a video on that recently during a event as well, and also in this case not recycling your runes. Like, the recycling of runes is a very interestingly different part of the game compared to your Lorcanas, your Magics, and I guess arguably your Pokemon, although there's a similar, that's probably not the same. Anyway, it is very different and thus people might be bad at it. I bet over that weekend, many more people just fucked up the recycling mechanic of the game or just forgot to do it. That's why, again, I err on the side of cautioning, pointing and saying it's intentional. Either way, observe what your opponent is doing. Keep track of their rune count at the absolute very least. I know when you're learning a card game, especially if this is your first competitive card game, that can seem daunting and difficult, but it'll be worth it to avoid you getting scummed, intentional or otherwise. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Be good to one another. Don't go fucking chasing stuff. It is kind of funny to meme about Free Stopper. I guess it allows us to let off a bit of steam as a community around card games that do that kind of thing. But don't spam that in other people's comment sections or in the Twitch chat or whatever. It's not going to help. It's not going to be productive towards an end goal. I hope Savjz doesn't keep the prize money he won through quite illegitimate means, whether intentional or otherwise. And I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.